November 23rd, 1900, Volume 4, How All Souls Are in Jesus. As I was in my usual state, my loving Jesus transported me outside of myself, and coming out from within my interior, he showed himself so big as to absorb the whole earth within himself, and he spread his magnitude so much that my soul could not find the end of it. I felt dissolved in God, and not only myself, but all creatures were dissolved in him. Oh, how unseemly it appeared! What an affront is given to our Lord when we, little worms, though living in him, dare to offend him. Oh, if all could see how we are in God! Oh, how careful they would be not to cause him even a shadow of displeasure. Then he became so tall as to absorb the whole of heaven in himself. So in God himself I could see everyone, angels and saints. I could hear their singing. I could understand many things about eternal happiness. After this I saw many rivulets of milk flowing from Jesus. I drank at those rivulets, but since I was very limited and Jesus was so big and tall as to have no end, either in magnitude or in height, I could not manage to absorb them all in me. Many of them would flow outside, though remaining in God himself. I felt displeasure, and I would have wanted everyone to run and drink at these rivulets, but so very scarce was the number of the pilgrim souls who would drink. Our Lord, too, was displeased by this, and he said to me, "What you see is constrained mercy, and this irritates justice more. How can I not make justice when they themselves constrain my mercy within me?" And I, taking his hands, clasped them together, saying, "No, Lord, you cannot make justice. I do not want it. And since I do not want it, neither do you want it, because my will is no longer mine, but yours. And since it is yours, whatever I do not want, you do not want either. Have you not told me yourself that I must live of your will entirely and completely?" My sweet Jesus was disarmed by my words. He became small again and enclosed himself in my interior, and I found myself inside myself. November 23rd, 1903, Volume 6. There is no beauty that equals suffering for God alone. I felt impressed in my interior by what I had written above, as if it were not according to the truth. So as soon as I saw blessed Jesus, I said, "Lord, what I have written is not right. How can there be all this through mere suffering?" And he, "My daughter, do not be surprised. Indeed, there is no beauty that equals suffering for the love of God alone. 2 arrows come from me continuously, one from my heart, which is of love, and wounds all those who are on my lap, that is, those who are in my grace. This arrow wounds, mortifies, heals, afflicts, attracts, reveals, consoles, and continues my passion and redemption in those who are on my lap. The other comes from my throne, and I entrust it to the angels who, as my ministers, make this arrow flow over any kind of people, chastising them and exciting all to conversion." Now, while he was saying this, he shared his pains with me, telling me, "Here, in you also, is the continuation of redemption." November 23rd, 1907, Volume 8. If the soul suffers distractions at communion, It is a sign that she has not given herself completely to God. Having heard from someone that she would get easily distracted at communion, I was saying in my interior, "How is it possible to get distracted while being with you? Does one perhaps not remain all absorbed in you?" Now, finding myself in my usual state, I was doing my usual interior things, and it was as if I could see some distractions wanting to enter into me. And blessed Jesus put his hands in front of them and did not let them in. Then he told me, "My daughter, if the soul suffers distractions and disturbances, it is a sign that she has not given herself completely to me. In fact, when the soul has given herself completely to me, since she is my own thing, I know how to keep my gift in good custody. But when they do not give me everything, because of their free will, I cannot keep that special custody, and they are forced to suffer importuning things which disturb my union with them. On the other hand, when the soul is all mine, she makes no effort to remain calm. The commitment is all mine to let nothing enter which may disturb our union." November 23rd, 1910, Volume 10. Love is enough for everything and changes the natural virtues into divine. Finding myself in my usual state, I was thinking about purity and about how I do not give a thought to this beautiful virtue, either for or against. It seems to me that on this button of purity, it neither bothers me, nor do I think about it. So I said to myself, I myself do not know how I am with regard to this virtue, but I do not want to meddle in this. Love is enough for me in everything. And Jesus, adding to my words, told me, "My daughter, love encloses everything, chains everything, gives life to everything, triumphs over everything, embellishes everything, enriches everything. Purity is content with not doing any act, gaze, thought, or word which is not honest, while it tolerates the rest. And this amounts to the acquisition of mere natural purity. Love is jealous of everything, even of one's thought and breath, as honest as one may be. It wants everything for itself, and with this it gives to the soul not natural, but divine purity, and so with all the other virtues. So one can say that love is patience, love is obedience, is sweetness, is fortitude, is peace. It is everything. If all the other virtues do not receive life from love, they can be called natural virtues at the most. But love changes them into divine virtues. Oh, what a difference between the two! The natural virtues are servants. The divine are queens. Therefore, may love be enough for you in everything. November 23rd, 1924, Volume 17. Just as the Lord gave us the natural air for the body, he gave the air of his will to the soul. I continue in my state of privation of Jesus and of intense bitternesses for my poor soul, and if he makes himself seen in passing within my interior, he is all taciturn and pensive. However, in spite of his silence, I am content, thinking that he has not left me and that his dwelling in me still continues. And as my poor soul is about to wither, the sight of him gives me a sip of life, and like beneficial dew, it makes me flourish again. But to do what? To return again to wither and to feel like dying? So I am always between life and death. Then, while I was swimming in the immense sea of the pain of having lost him, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior, making himself seen in the act of praying. I united myself to him in prayer, and then he said to me, "My daughter, in creating man, in order to preserve his life, I formed around him the air of the body and the air of the soul. The natural air for the body, the air of my will for the soul. Do you think that only the natural air, being air, has the virtue of giving man respiration and strength, nourishment, freshness, and vegetation to all nature? Even though it cannot be seen, the air has everything in its power and becomes life of every created being. In fact, everyone feels the necessity of the air, and the air follows its course everywhere, at night and at daytime. It penetrates into the heartbeat of the heart, into the blood circulation, everywhere. But do you know why it contains so much virtue? Because God placed in the air all the substance of the goods it produces, that is, nourishing, respiratory, vegetative power, and the like. It contains as though many seeds of all the good it encloses. Now, if the air was needed for the preservation of all nature, air was also needed for the preservation of the spiritual nature, that is, every soul. And my goodness did not want to entrust or form indirectly another air to the soul, but my will itself wanted to become air for the soul, so that with all the substance of the good it contains, it might penetrate into the depth of the soul, like invisible air that invades everything, and bring her the divine nourishment, the vegetation, the respiratory virtue of all that is from on high, the invincible strength, the fecundity of all virtues and of every good. There should be a contest, the body breathing the natural air, and the soul breathing the air of my will. Yet there is enough to cry. If men feel the natural air lacking, they procure it with every effort. By going up to the high mountains, they express sorrow for the lack of air. They eagerly yearn for it. On the other hand, they have not one thought or sorrow for the air of my will, even though they are forced to be as though soaked in the air of my will. But this balsamic and sanctifying air, unloved and rejected by creatures, cannot place in the soul the goods it contains, and it is forced to stay there sacrificed, unable to carry out the life it contains. Therefore, my daughter, I recommend to you, if you want my will to fulfill its designs within you, always breathe the air of my will, so that as you breathe it, the divine life may live in you and lead you to the true purpose for which you were created. November 23rd, 1926, Volume 20, Threats of Chastisements. How the living in the divine will forms the true sun. What this sun is formed of. As I was in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen in my interior, his face leaning out from within my breast, his eyes sparkling with light, looking far away. Within that light, I too looked, and I could see rivers overflowing, seas swelling and going out of their shore, ships being swept away, towns submerged by water, storms carrying away everything that they invested, and many other evils that, while they seemed to take respite in one point, regained their fury in other points. Oh, how frightening it was to see the water, the wind, the sea, the earth armed by divine justice to strike the poor creatures. So I prayed my highest good that he would placate himself and withdraw the command to make justice that he had given to these elements. And my sweet Jesus, throwing his arms around my neck and clasping me tightly to himself, made me feel his justice. I felt myself succumbing, and my sweet Jesus, sighing, told me, "My daughter, I can take no more. It is necessary that my justice follow its course. You do not become alarmed at what you see, but rather occupy yourself with the kingdom of the eternal Fiat." I remained in suffering and afflicted because of the great evils that will occur, and abandoning myself in the adorable will of my Jesus, I enclosed in it all thoughts, gazes, words, works, steps, and heartbeats, so that all might love and ask together with me that the kingdom of the supreme Fiat may come and be soon established in the midst of the human generations. And my beloved good, resuming his speaking, added, "My daughter, the living in my will forms the true sun between heaven and earth. Its rays, extending down below, invest each thought, gaze, word, work, and step, and binding them with its light, it forms with them a crown around itself, keeping it firm within itself, so that nothing may escape it. Its rays, extending up high, invest the whole of heaven, all the blessed, and binding them all within its light, it lets nothing escape it, so that triumphant this sun may say, 'I enclose everything. I lack nothing of the works of my Creator and of what belongs to him. With my wings of light, I extend over everything. I embrace everyone. I triumph over all, even over my eternal Maker, because in the light of his volition, there is nothing he wants that I do not bring to him. There is no act I do not do for him. There is no love I do not give him. With my wings of light, that my eternal Fiat administers to me, I am the true King who, investing all, dominates everything. Who can resist the solar rays or free oneself from them when one is outside? The power of the light is irresistible. Wherever it extends, no one can escape its touch that, lapping against them, gently impresses upon them its kisses of light and of heat, and triumphant, keeps them invested under the impression of its light. There might be some who, ungrateful, do not pay attention to it, nor say a thank you. But the light does not mind even this. Rather, it minds its office of light and remains firm in giving the good it possesses. More so, since the sun of my will is not like the sun that can be seen in the vault of the heavens, whose sphere of light is limited. If that sphere were so large as to extend so much as to form a second heaven, the earth, in rotating, would keep finding its sun, and therefore darkness and night would not be able to invest the earth. And just as the earth never loses sight of the heavens that extend everywhere, so it would never lose sight of the sun, and it would always be daylight for the earth. Now the sun of my will, its sphere, is not limited, and therefore it possesses its full day. Therefore one who lives in it embraces all times, all generations, and investing the acts of all, she forms one single act, one single love, and one single glory for her Creator. But do you know what this Son of my supreme will is formed of? My attributes are the rays of this sun that, though different among themselves in their qualities and in the office they hold, are light in their substance. And my will, the combining light that assumes all these lights together, is the director of all my attributes. And so, when creatures deserve to be struck, I direct the ray of light of my justice, and defending my rights, it strikes the creatures. November 23rd, 1927, Volume 23. When the soul does not give primacy to the divine will, the divine will is in danger and as though suffocated in the midst of creatures. When the soul prays for the coming of the kingdom of the divine will, all of heaven echoes her prayer. My abandonment in the divine Fiat alone is my life, my support, my all. My sweet Jesus hides more and more, and I remain only with this will so holy, immense, so powerful, that at each of its motions spouts and emits from itself a sea of light that forms its luminous and endless waves. My littleness gets lost, though it comprehends that there is much to do in order to follow its innumerable acts within so vast a sea. And wandering within the divine Fiat, I thought to myself, oh, if I had my sweet Jesus with me, who knows all the secrets of his will, I would not get lost, and I would follow its endless acts better. I really feel that he no longer loves me as before, even though he tells me that it is not true. But I see facts, and in the face of facts, words have no value. Ah, Jesus, Jesus, I did not expect this change of yours that makes me feel a continuous death. More so since you know that your leaving me without you for such a long time costs me more than my very life. But while I was thinking of this and other things, my beloved Jesus moved in my interior and told me, my daughter, my little daughter, why do you fear? Why do you doubt about my love? And besides, if you get lost, it is always in my will that you remain, never outside of it. Nor could I tolerate that you went out of its boundaries by a single step. No, no, the little daughter of my will always be in its arms. And besides, how can I not love you if in you I see my Fiat having primacy in all of your acts? I do not see it in danger as in other creatures, suffocated in all their acts. In fact, since they do not give it primacy, it is always in danger in their midst. Some steal its goods from it, some offend its light, some deny it, some trample upon it. Since they do not give it primacy, it is like a king whose subjects, not giving him the honors due to him, beat him and want to put him out of his own kingdom. What sorrow! But in my little daughter, my divine will is safe. It is not in danger in her gazes, because in all created things she looks at the veils that hide my will, and she tears the veils, and finding it reigning in all creation, she kisses it, she adores it, she loves it, and follows its very acts, placing herself as its cortege. It is not in danger in your words, in your works, in anything, for you give it the first act in your acts. By giving it the first act, one gives it divine honors. One esteems it as the king of everything, and the soul receives the goods of her Creator as things that belong to her. So for her my will is not in a dangerous state, but safe. It does not feel the light, the air, the water, the earth being stolen from itself, because everything is hers. On the other hand, those who do not let it rain rob it from all sides, and my will finds itself in continuous danger. After this, having followed my round in the divine fiat, I was gathering all created things in which all the acts of the divine fiat are present, dominating. And I, gathering everything together, the heavens, the sun, the sea, and all creation, brought everything together before the Supreme Majesty, to surround it with all of its works, and have the acts of its very will ask for the kingdom of the divine fiat upon earth. But while I was doing this, my lovable Jesus moved in my interior and told me, "My daughter, hear how all of heaven echoes your petition. The angels, the saints, the sovereign queen repeat among themselves, Fiat, fiat voluntas tua on earth as it is in heaven." Because it is petition of heaven, it is the kingdom that interests everyone. They all feel the duty to ask for what you want. They feel within themselves the same strength of the power of my same divine will, by which all of them are animated. And they repeat, "May the will of heaven be one with the earth." Oh, how beautiful it is, how harmoniously it resounds when an echo from the earth invests all of heaven, and forms one single echo, one single will, one single petition. And all the blessed say among themselves, taken by admiration, "Who is she who is carrying the whole cortege of the divine works before the divinity, and with the power of the divine fiat that she possesses, she overwhelms us all, and makes us ask for a kingdom so holy? No one has had this power. No one until now has asked for the kingdom of the fiat with such power and empire. At the most, some have asked for the glory of God, some for the salvation of souls, some for the reparation of many offenses, all things that refer to the external works of God. But asking for the kingdom of the divine will is about his internal works, the most intimate acts of God, and the destruction of sin. It is not just salvation, but divine sanctity in the creatures. It is liberation from all evils, spiritual and corporal. It is transporting the earth to heaven, so as to make heaven descend upon earth. Therefore, asking for the kingdom of my divine will is the greatest, the most perfect, the holiest thing. And this is why reverently all answer your echo, and in the celestial fatherland resounds the beautiful harmony, Fiat voluntas tua on earth as it is in heaven. End of November 23rd. Fiat,